Thank you for coming to Starbright Storytime. This is the overview of books from week 25. These are the books that I read last week. The first one is Sammy the Seal by Sid Hoff. It's a fun story about the adventures of a seal who gets a reprieve from his zoo environment. He actually goes adventuring through the city and winds up having a day at school. Sammy the Seal learns a lot of things at school. And then he goes back to the zoo, where he is feeling perfectly comfortable and at home. This is a good book for your children that are learning to read. Simple text, simple storyline. It's a fun little book. An I Can Read book, and this is level 1 for preschool to grade 1. Sammy the Seal by Sid Hoff. This is also the author of Danny and the Dinosaur and Danny and the Dinosaur Go to Camp. The next book on the list was The Shark Who Was Afraid of Everything. This is by Brian James, illustrated by Bruce McNally. This is another fun story about a shark, of course, who is afraid of everything, and how he overcomes his fear and finds his confidence. The shark runs away, but he ends up finding that a friend has followed him. He makes a new friend, and that kind of draws out his confidence in himself, as after they get lost, he's meant to be the protector. Sharky the Shark. Sharky the Shark overcomes his fears and comes home a sort of hero. It's a good story about facing your fears and perseverance. The Shark Who Was Afraid of Everything by Brian James, illustrated by Bruce McNally. The next book on the list is Somewhere in the Ocean, written by Jennifer Ward and T.J. Marsh, illustrated by Kenneth J. Spengler. Illustrations are gorgeous in this book. It's a story of different sea animals, marine life. It is meant to also incorporate numbers and counting. So actually on every page there is a number, although I have to admit I don't see the number 3 on this page. I wonder if your little ones found it. 3, I don't see it. Let's take a different illustration as an example. On this page we're looking for the number 4. There's the 4. It has a basis in science, a scientific background on these particular aquatic animals. There's the number 5. So they are beautiful illustrations, and it's a bit of factual information about some of these sea animals, and also a little bit of a scavenger hunt as we look for the different numbers on the pages. This is a good educational book for your little ones, and it makes for a good bedtime story as well. And then in the back here we have more details and descriptions about different animals. Well, yes, this is a book that has some factual information for your little ones. Somewhere in the Ocean by Jennifer Ward and T.J. Marsh, illustrated by Kenneth J. Spengler. The next book on the list is called Dolphins. This is for reading level 3. This book is written by Sharon Bokoske and Margaret Davidson, illustrated by Courtney Studios. These also are splendid illustrations. There are several little stories in this book about dolphins, different experiences that people have had with dolphins, different research projects, and different excerpts that tell of different ways that we interact with dolphins as humans. And this also is based in science. It's an educational book about dolphins and the varieties of dolphins. They are very intelligent animals. It's a longer book. Yep. I think that is probably one of the reasons why it is deemed reading level 3. 48 pages. And reading level 3 is for grades 1 to 3. For a child who's ready to learn new words and read on their own. So this is a good book for children who are a little bit more advanced in their reading. Dolphins, written by Sharon Bokoske and Margaret Davidson, illustrated by Courtney Studios. Next on the list we had Mono y Yo, Monkey and Me, by Emily Gravett. This book, I believe, came out of a Cheerios box, if you would believe it. One of those promotional rewards, the toy in the box, except this time it was a book. One wonderful thing about this book is that it is written, translated into 2 different languages, Spanish and English. So if you have children that are trying to learn a second language, one of which being English or Spanish, this is a good book to introduce to young children in order for them to learn some new words for animals in another language. It's a very simple story about a little girl and her toy monkey. They like to bounce around and mimic different animals. It looks like they went to the zoo and they saw all of these animals, and then they get home at the end of the day and just, what else did they see? Sleep. Very tired. It's a cute little book by Emily Gravett. It is in Spanish and English. Mono y Yo, or Monkey and Me. The next book on the list is The Baby is Here, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. This is published by the Fred Rogers Company, or it's copyright Fred Rogers Company. These characters come from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, if you are familiar with the program. And if not, that's okay too, because the book stands on its own. The Baby is Here. This book is written, it's adapted by Angela C. Santomero from the screenplays written by Angela C. Santomero and Becky Friedman. There are 2 different plays, it looks like, screenplays. Daniel learns about being a big brother, and then the second one, The Baby is Here, which is one on which Becky Friedman contributed for the writing. It says poses and layouts by Jason Fruchter. I believe that the story was written as a screenplay, 2 different screenplays combined for this story. So here we have Daniel Tiger. His mommy is expecting a little baby, a little sister for him. And this is about Daniel and how he helps prepare the house for the new baby. And then Mom and Dad head off to the hospital, and Daniel Tiger stays with his grandparent. And then once the baby is born, they make their trip to the hospital, and Daniel is very excited to meet his baby sister. And here we have the other characters from the neighborhood. This is Daniel Tiger's neighborhood. The baby is here. Adapted by Angela C. Santomero. And the last book on the list for the week is Harry and the Hot Lava by Chris Robertson. Harry and the Hot Lava. This is a story of imagination. A boy and his imagination. Everywhere in his home is being taken over by hot lava. And so he has to jump from surface to surface in order to avoid the hot lava. It is relatively simple reading for your level 1 readers. Although the text may be a little bit challenging, but it's a fun storybook for your children, and it's great expression of imagination. Everything, everywhere is hot lava. It's a very cute storybook by Chris Robertson, and it is dedicated to his son. Harry and the Hot Lava by Chris Robertson. So those are the books for week 25. Harry and the Hot Lava by Chris Robertson. The Baby is Here by Angela C. Santomero. Mono y Yo, Monkey and Me by Emily Gravett. Dolphins, written by Sharon Bokoske and Margaret Davidson, illustrated by Courtney Studios. We had Somewhere in the Ocean, written by Jennifer Ward and T.J. Marsh, illustrated by Kenneth J. Spengler. There was The Shark Who Was Afraid of Everything by Brian James, illustrated by Bruce McNally. And then finally, the first book on this week's reading list was Sammy the Seal by Sid Hoff. I hope you and your children enjoyed these books. Thank you so much for coming to Starbright Storytime.